Today, Cameroon is commemorating the 47th anniversary of national unity, but this celebration remains particular with regard to Anglophone crisis that prevails within the country and considerably jeopardizes the nation's unity, especially between the Anglophones and the Francophones. Moise Katumbi, one of the opposition leaders in the Democratic Republic of Congo, finally arrived in his country this Monday after 3 years of exile. The leader of the movement Together for Change was welcomed at Lumumbashi Airport by a cheerful crowd. In Somalia, the United Nations warns that drought in some parts of the country is likely to provoke a major humanitarian crisis if urgent action is not taken to contain the situation. More than 2 million people are threatened with starvation by July. These are our top stories. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. Rwanda, the country of thousand hills, is portrayed as a role model and fascinates everyone by the dynamism of its economy, but especially by the determination of the highest authorities to build an environment where life is good. The construction of the future green city is unprecedented in Central Africa. From now on, when you arrive in Rwanda, something new will hold your attention. A green city will be built on 620 hectares in the outskirts of Kinyinya, Gosabo district, with a system that prevents environmental degradation and air pollution. If completed in time, the planned city would be the first of its kind in Africa. The project aims to show the viability of green cities in Rwanda and the elements that could be replicated in the development of secondary cities across the country with green technologies and innovations for green and climate-resistant urbanization. Relevant cities and designs on this innovative project will be completed by December. Construction work on the Green City of Kigali is expected to begin in January 2020, reported the New Times. Even if the exact cost of the project is not yet known, the engineers estimated at $4 or $5 billion. According to project experts, the city will have clean technologies, electric vehicles, cycle paths and electric bike paths, renewable energies, sustainable waste treatment, biogas plants, and urban forests. The city will also have many factories with clean technologies, affordable housing, and integrated artisanal production centers. The city will be built primarily with local materials, making homes more affordable and more environmentally sustainable. Different entrepreneurs will participate in the project as part of the Cactus Green Park project. 410 houses with green spaces will be built on 13 hectares of land. The Rwandan Social Security Office will develop affordable greenhouses on 120 hectares. So far, the fund has mobilized more than $170 million for green projects in the country. The entourage of the Congolese head of state says the name of the long-awaited prime minister must be known within the week. In all likelihood, the head of government should get along well with the current president Etienne Tshisekedi and his predecessor Joseph Kabila. Tshisekedi is indeed in an alliance or coalition approach with the Common Front for Congo. The week ahead promises to be busy in the DRC in Lumumbashi as the opponent and former Katanga governor, the rich businessman Moise Katumbi, returns home after 3 years of exile. I returned to Lumumbashi on May 20th to stay with my beloved ones, to console families who have been abused. While I was abroad, they went through hell, and that is why I will ask all Congolese jurists who live in the diaspora, human rights NGOs, and churches, we should be able to rewrite the history of our country, Moise Katumbi said on May 7th on RFI and France 24. For many observers, the return of Moise Katumbi is far from a mere coincidence of timing with the imminent appointment of a prime minister. He is suspected of being in a game of circumstantial alliance with the new regime, which could propel him to be appointed head of government. There are plenty of reasons to support this opinion, and the businessman is at the head of a movement called Together for Change, which has the largest number of opposition MPs in the National Assembly. His sympathy with a large part of the Congolese population after a forced exile and his term at the head of the Katanga region would make him a middleman between a radical opposition led by Martin Fayulu, those supporting Kabila, and Tshisekedi sympathizers. Since this scenario could only be possible within the context of a broad political consensus, there are strong indications that this will not be approved by the FCC. a party with majority in both houses of parliament and entitled to propose the name of the Prime Minister to be appointed. In any case, Prime Minister or not, in the hours or days to come, Moise Katumbi, upon returning to his country, suggests that above all, the DRC is his number one priority. While the unity of the country is weakened by the multiple crises it is going through, Paul Biya, the Cameroonian president, repeats calls for patriotism and the promotion of mutual coexistence on social networks. May 20th marks the commemoration of unity between the English and French-speaking regions. But for a year now, there has been a recurrence of armed conflicts in the north and southwestern areas, two of the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. May 20th marks the commemoration of unity between the English and French-speaking regions, but for a year now, there has been a recurrence of armed conflicts in the north and southwestern areas, two of the 10 English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Armed groups are fighting towards splitting the country, and the army has been deployed in masses to restore order, but the crisis is far from ending. This armed crisis also has political repercussions for so many political parties, notably the Cameroon Renaissance Movement of Patrice Kamto, the Social Democratic Front of the historical opposition leader John Frundi, and the Cameroon People's Party of Edith Kawala announced that they will not take part in the various ceremonies organized on the occasion. They feel not being able to afford to celebrate the Cameroon National Day as long as one part of Cameroon cannot do so. In 2001, the 40th anniversary of the unification was already marked by banned demonstrations that had resulted in several killings. Anglophones complain of being treated as slaves of Francophones, and a few of them demand secession more than ever. Since the beginning of the year, the rate of malnutrition among adults, but also among children, has increased considerably in the country. By July 2019, according to the UN agency, there will be 2.2 million people facing famine, nearly 18% of the population in Somalia.
The situation in Somalia is very worrying. We're just 2 years on from the 2017 drought, which had a famine warning to it. We were able to avoid famine through working with partners, government, civil society, the diaspora, private sector. It really was a collective effort. The projection is that if the rains were good in May and June, still 2.2 million Somalis would be either in crisis and emergency as far as food insecurity. Hundreds of thousands of children especially would be affected by malnutrition. What we're seeing though is that the rains in May are not performing well.
In most parts of the country, pastoralists are desperate to find pasture of their flock. FAO is worried about the number of animals in poor health with barely meat on their bones, plagued by diseases. In the central and northern regions, pastoralists are even forced to slaughter their goats and male sheep to preserve milk-producing females, because they are unable to feed and water the entire herd. In order to fight illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, the European Union has developed a new computer tool called Catch with digitized certificates. Catch is an online application set up by the European Union for catch certificates. It indeed allows to effectively fight illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. The entry into the world's largest seafood market for exports from third countries will now go through this new catch certification system, compulsory for each consignment of fishery products entering the European territory. It will ensure that fishery products from third countries are from legal sources. It also aims to reduce the risk of fraud, facilitate trade flows, and reduce the burden on operators and administrations. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing has become a global issue. With the ever-increasing demand for seafood and the stagnation of the global supply for catch product for more than 20 years, there is a growing appetite for fish resources. Estimates indicate that the overall annual value of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing ranges from 10 to 23.5 billion US dollars per year. This represents between 1/6 and 1/3 of the world's reported catch, between 11 to 26 million tons of fish per year. Losses from this fraudulent fishery in sub-Saharan Africa are estimated to be between 1 to 1.5 billion annually, or nearly a quarter of Africa's total annual fish exports. In 2018, Gabon launched Albacore operation named after a species of tuna caught in its waters. This monitoring, control and surveillance operation during the tuna fishing season, which lasts 4 to 6 months each year, also helps to combat illegal and unregulated fishing. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the renowned American actor and former governor of California, was chatting with his fans at the Santon Convention Center in Johannesburg when suddenly a man jumped up and kicked him in the back.
My cup of tea. So I have no idea how this guy was envisioning that he would get a Lamborghini by kicking me in the back. It just does no pencil out. So obviously the guy was on some special South African drug. So whatever it was, and that's it.
Schwarzenegger was in Johannesburg for the Arnold Classic Africa, an annual international multisport festival. The surprise attack was perpetrated by a crazy supporter while he was taking a tour in view of supporting athletes, said the organizers, adding that the attacker was arrested on the spot. Today, Cameroon is commemorating the 47th anniversary of national unity, but this celebration remains particular with regard to Anglophone crisis that prevails within the country and considerably jeopardizes the nation's unity, especially between the Anglophones and the Francophones. Moise Katumbi, one of the opposition leaders in the Democratic Republic of Congo, finally arrived in his country this Monday after 3 years of exile. The leader of the movement Together for Change was welcomed at Lubumbashi Airport by a cheerful crowd. In Somalia, the United Nations warns that drought in some parts of the country is likely to provoke a major humanitarian crisis if urgent action is not taken to contain the situation. More than 2 million people are threatened with starvation by July. That's all for our newscast today. Stay tuned on Gabon 24 for more news.